Not because I suffer fast, not because I pray and fast. No be your show, no be that. I'm watching. Osinachi, I'm no kwa. Osinachi, one lemon. Osinachi, I'm watching. Osinachi, mama. Osinachi,
So,
Yeah. Hi, Professor Charity. We start with
yes.
Yes, I know. Good morning, Ma. So it's
Good
11
morning.
Friday.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you can.
Okay. So, are we to go?
Yes. The chair is ready to begin, please. Yes.
Good morning, everyone. Can I go ahead? Okay. Are we good to go?
Yes.
Please.
Yes, you are.
Okay. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Yes.
Can we start the session? Please.
Go. Can you hear
I
us,
didn't
Ma?
hear that.
We are good
I
to
didn't
go.
get that. Okay, so can you hear me very well from here?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I have listed here 5 papers. Good morning.
Good morning.
And welcome to this session on being neither here nor there, continuity and discontinuity, organized by the Center for Wole Soyinka Studies, University of Abuja. So I have listed here 5 papers. I don't know whether all the speakers are here or they are online somewhere.
We have 3 speakers here in person. Oh, 2. Okay. Oh, okay, 2.
And 2 online.
No, we have 1 online.
She's going to be speaking on, is it here? Speaking on the post-colonial stylistic examination of cultural hybridity in selection in class plays. Is
Samara.
okay. Then we have Mbu, who will speak on the void of post-independence and the interfaces of meaning in Wole Soyinka, the interpreters and chronicles. And the last but not the least is Loretta Nkiruka Ike, who will speak on self-construct, survivor consciousness and the society in Kongi's harvest. I think that each speaker will have about 10 minutes. That will take us to 50 minutes. And then we'll have time for questions and answers and do we take one speaker and discuss the paper, or do we take all the speakers and then we will take questions and then react to those papers, because we don't have much time. We have 1 hour 30 minutes. I think that is a better way to go about it. Is there anybody who is not comfortable with that?
We are comfortable.
Okay, fine. So we start with Toshin Adeshokan, who will present on a post-colonial stylistic examination of cultural hybridity in Select Soyinka's plays. You have 10 minutes. Do we have a timekeeper?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, fine. So you remind when it's a minute to the time, and then you when it's close to. So we have Toshin, go on.
Yes. University, I'll be presenting a paper titled Post-Colonial Stylistic Examination of Cultural Activities Select Soyinka's Plays. From time immemorial, the impact of colonialism has been negative and positive, and most of the time, so people are debating whether the negative impact or the positive impact overweigh each other. To some extent, those that are for the negative impact have come a group together to rupture the aftermath of colonialism, and these people are called post-colonialists. They want to rewrite, they want to recheck and re-examine the long-lasting impact of colonialism on the colonized people. They want to check, they want to use their artwork to reproduce, to reproject, to subjectivize the image of the African people. And Soyinka, one of the foremost African playwrights, is one of these people who have immersed himself in reprojecting the images of African society through his work. And when he's doing this, unlike most post-colonialists, he sees from 2 sides. His angle is hydra-headed. He sees from the angle of projecting the African image, and also, in the same sense, not turning a blind eye to some part of African culture that should be done away with. And to support this evidence, we're using a theoretical framework for linguistic statistics, which is a way of using linguistic devices, method, and pattern to project an objective analysis of the text. Statement of the problem. While most people are studying Wole Soyinka from a lot of angles, political angle, economical angle, and a lot of areas, there is still a literature gap, a research gap in how post-colonial principles of his work are highlighted, are shown, are displayed by linguistic devices, and that will be the aim of this paper. Besides objectives, this study will be examining how Soyinka stylistically dramatized cultural activity in his work. We are going to look into how the iconic linguistic devices also portray his cultural identity stance. Also, we are going to look at how he stays neither here or there in his work, and then we are going to see how Soyinka projects the African should continue with this stance. Theoretical approaches. A theory is a method of interpreting a work. Interpreting a work without a theory, according to Marx, is blind. So this work will be interpreted using 2 approaches: linguistic stylistics, which I've explained before, and post-colonialism, an idea, which means interrogating the aftermath of colonialism, projected by several scholars, are known to be precise, and others. So methodology, are going to have a mixture of post-colonial statistics in a qualitative manner, and then 2 texts as said in this paper, Death and the King's First Man and Lion and the Dream. The choice of Death and the King's First Man is important because it as an actual representation of the then royal king, Allah whose king refused to commit suicide after the king said, despite a provision made by the Yoruba culture to follow instantly. So that is why that particular text was selected. And Lion the Joy is replete with many instances of cultural identity. Analysis. Two texts are going to be used. Text A is Lion the Joy, where we have the conversation between Baroka and CD. Continue with the analysis. In the excerpt that I showed, text A, I'm going to be starting with the lexical-semantic level of analysis, which is looking at meaning of words and how to project ideological stances in the text. In the previous text, Baroka mentions old and new, which are adjectival elements to structure Baroka's ideology. These two antonymous words create a binary meaning that's characterized by Bradland also as binary position. And that means the meaning of a word is contained in the meaning of another word. Meaning is not self-contained. To know the meaning of old, we have to go to the new, and to know the meaning of new, we have to go back to the old. None of them can self-sufficiently be meaningful. And these two words are a pointer to the projection of the ideology that Africans should embrace another culture from another perspective. Syntactically, while they're checking the rules of syntax, we see the recurring interrogatives of construction, such as, is that not so, in the dialogue given by Baroka. This particular sentence is an interrogative sentence which requires information from the addressee. CD is the addressee, a woman. In a typical Yoruba culture, men often don't involve women in discussion. The act of involving your spouse or wife in a discussion is Western in nature. And in involving CD in every discussion we have, Baroka is teaching extent towards the Western ideology by using interrogative. In Yoruba culture, we are more familiar with imperative as a man, you have to show your power and dominance. And also the module auxiliary remorse, which appeared twice in this excerpt, is a verb that means necessity. Soyinka is resounding the idea that moving towards the Western cultural visualization of the two is something that we have to take importance. So moving on, text two, we have Verb and the King's Horseman, a conversation between Amusa, Bekins, and Jenny. Bekins and Jenny, they are two British people, and Amusa happens to be a particular African man who works for them. The analysis continues. In that particular example that was shown, Mr. Fikli and Suraj, they are trying to try on the masquerade that was seized in that particular story. When Amusa gets there, he's scared, surprised. How do you be playing with something sacred as African tradition? And this response by Amusa projects the idea that no matter what happens, Amusa works for these people, despite that he stands on the ground to uphold African tradition. From the syntactic point of view, Amusa says, I cannot talk to you. I cannot talk this matter to you in that dress. This is a negative declarative sentence that is realized through a non-specific structure, which is not a normal sentence. Amusa has always been complying with whatever the British people inform him to do in this particular story. But when it comes to the issue of culture, he stands his ground. That is why he uses that sentence to change the orientation of how he has been communicating with them. Also, Amusa employs a directive illocutionary act of John said in 69 that is realized through imperative construction to assert authority and challenge both native collaborators and colonial figures there. And he also makes a simple question: what do you think we do with that dress? Because that dress is sacred to Amusa. Nobody should try and touch it at all. These are interrogative sentences which reposition, according to Fanon, in the process of decolonization, the first shall become the last, while the last shall become the first. In the manner of ordering, the British officers are the ones that should be asking Abusa
You have
questions.
1 minute to go.
Thank you. But with this particular expression, is one that is asking the question. Findings, through this analysis, it was realized that both the lion and the death and the fifth person are iconic linguistic features that support the moderate post-colonial position posed by Wole Soyinka. And in conclusion, it is essential to regard Wole Soyinka as an iconoclastic dramatist whose works that have been cited in this work reflect cultural evidence, which is very necessary for our continuation as a nation. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much for your presentation. We really appreciate the insight you have brought, the linguistic and stylistic features you have mentioned, especially as in your analysis of Death and the King's Horseman. The next presenter is Ademola Adeshola, who will present on What Manner of Feminists, a reading of the portraiture of Iyaloja in Soyinka's Death and the King's Horseman. Your time starts now.
Okay. Good morning. Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here. I'm I edited literature, African and Black diaspora literatures. In the children and both in the Department of English Language and Culture. This is a joint presentation. My colleague here is Dr. Abose actually. I'm sorry. I'm anticipating your life. Okay, so actually from Osun State University, campus. So we are jointly, doing this paper together. In which case, this is a still highly developing, work for us. We just want to, bounce the idea of that's why we're here. So what we're going to do is just very briefly, I talk about introduce it, and then my colleague will take it away. We're not going to go into any deep dive because of time. Our preparation was 20 minutes, 20 minutes. So, but the 10 minutes I was just as you know, so you guys today, I think it was 50 years to application station. And the important point to highlight here as we examine the picture of one of its main characters is that this is a play that has been time and no study. Some people take extreme view with argue everything that can be talked about in the text has been talked about, but we differ from that significantly because of the fact that the character of Iyaloja, who just been read from different analytical standpoints, is one that continues to invite attention because of its complexity. So what invites us to look at this is exactly that complexity. So the big hope for us here is we are asking the question, what manner of woman is this kind of thing? Is it possible to read this person using the lens of feminism in current language? Is Iyaloja a feminist, so to speak, or an enabler of patriarchy, or one who straddles both ends? We're interested in that. And in doing that, we're also interested in raising such questions as what does this character stand for? Okay? Is she an agent of, progress in context in which the play is set? Or this person does something differently? Especially if you look at the notion about to what degree should women be involved in politics in the universe of the text. And we find out that while the Iyaloja is in pleasure-seeking feminine, it's not focused on the task. It's this woman who is insisting that there is a task to their privilege and attention must be given to it. We're also asking the question about whether this character supports the agency of other human beings or she subverts them. The one we're just saying that. And finally, it is also that key question. If she's a feminist at all, what manner of feminist is she? Those are questions that agitates, or rather, are crucial to our investigation of the text. We stand on the shoulders of, hundreds of scholars who have, engaged this work in that sense. We also find that as a theoretical framework, we see some manifestation of arguments that we should all be feminists, in the manifestation of this character. And we want to be able to see to what degree does she, exemplify some of the conclusions that Adichie raises, reaches in that work. So these are some of the things where we, amongst several other important constitutions, aim towards deepening understanding of this character. So I will use the floor to my colleague who would just summarize this for us because of our time, and they will be more than happy to meet my to give a question and answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, so I'm just going to take back on my phone. And it just said, let's not be feminists. And so what she has to do, the feminist is somebody who can dream and plan for a different world. A world where men and women are treated differently from what they are now, where we look at children different for what we've been doing, where we see injustice, gender equality, inequality, and we call this out, where we work towards it. So it's not just about being there. So Soyinka, because of his legacy, he had an aunt that was a feminist, his own mother was called a wild. From that pedigree, you would expect that when he's putting together a play, he would have the sense to include women, and that's what he did. But it's not just about having women. It's not about women being on the table, because that is what the other represented. She stood for the patriarchal hegemony of the kingdom, of the young woman. She was talking about governance, women being represented. Yes, she was there. She did both political and economic power. She worked well with the women in the market. She was the mother of the market. So she was important in society. She had the power, she had a voice, she had a presence, she had the influence, she had all of these. What is she the feminist we are looking for? Did she change anything else? Did she see any injustice in the women only to their souls to pander to the women's of LSC? Oh, I'm not well dressed. Oh, women are not dog, richly clothing the gallery, giving Soya, giving Boa skin standard. What's the beginning of that for those women's economic power? Did she look at it? The procession of election as a gluten for leisure. And can you see what we have? Women object, right? As the symbols of pleasure. I mean, the man wants to pick the man that has pleasure, the women were all over him, so that what kind of feminist we're talking about? So Iyadoja, as a person and a character, she was there, but she didn't quite fit into the mold of the feminism that we want, that Adichie has recommended for us. She said, "How about injustice?" She called those instances. She was part of the process. She was so committed, into the maintaining the well-being of your physical and physical order. Essentially, you must do your task. Essentially, you must do this. Don't forget it. Look at what she even did to her soon-to-be daughter-in-law. She forgot that the lady had own agency. She was supposed to be autonomous, to be able to self-legislate. This is the person I want to marry. But of course, the society wants this. It's calls for it. The well-being of society, you can't marry my son again. Go and marry a lady. Without consultation whatsoever. So that's the kind of femininity I'm looking for. Because we make the mistake these days and say, so what's the implication of this? So they are saying from one of those things that she's not the feminine that we're looking for. And because we make the mistake of thinking that when a woman is present, oh, we have made, gender is included. What are the kind of feminists we want in Africa? That's the beginning in African feminism. The kind of feminists that we want are those who go there, sit at the table, represent women with the agenda of gender equity and gender inclusion. That when they see obstructions, they see programs, project policies that are limiting women, they address them. They will not be able to eliminate everything at once, but it's a plan. And this is their dream, plan towards it. They plan towards it, they work at it, they bring those structures down. And the kind of feminists we are looking for, I don't want that we have any deeds of bank and female, we have the BC of the female. The feminists that we are looking for is one that when you get there, you look at the policies, is there gender policy in this place? If there has they been implemented? Has they been measured? Is there a feedback loop? How are we measuring the progress of gender mainstreaming? And if you are in the bank, what are the processes of the bank, products and services? How are they helping women? The feminists we are looking for are those ones who can multiply themselves, replace themselves in the society. Who just be a queen bee, I'm there, I'm a woman. Bring others, recycle them, mentor them. Those are the kind of feminists we want. Those are the feminists of reologists. Because those men will always understand more than watch and video. But no one to stand can question her. No one, she didn't think about them in a relationship with them. When the relationship, let's say they follow her, they obey her. But can they replace it? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that very incisive presentation. Which for me, I hope that the people that are listening are thinking of the questions they want to ask. At the forefront for me is Iyaloja being presented as a feminist. I will need a more detailed explanation of that. But I think we will come to the questions later. So let's just keep all that at the back of our minds. And this is my own presentation, Semiotic Continuities and Discontinuities in Wole Soyinka's drama, a study of the interplay between Yoruba myths and global ideologies. Now, what is the purpose of my study? The purpose is to explore how Wole Soyinka uses semiotic elements, symbols, myths, rituals, and cultural codes in his plays. It is to analyze how Yoruba indigenous meanings intersect or clash with global ideologies such as colonialism, post-colonial thought, and existentialism. Now, what is the theoretical framework I have used for this study? I have looked at Ferdinand de Saussure, his dyadic model of signifier signified, which helps unpack linguistic and symbolic meanings in Soyinka's text. I have also looked at Charles Peir's model, icon index symbol, which assists in interpreting ritual and mythic signs. Then I have looked at Roland Barthes, his concept of myth as a second order signification, which clarifies worked for modern audiences. You know that Wole Soyinka actually does codes, indigenous and global. The plays I have looked at are A Dance of the Forest, looked at The Strong Breed, and of course the text that is flowing today so much, Death and the King's Horseman, because they represent such a rich interplay of Yoruba cosmology and broader socio-political realities of post-colonial Nigeria. And that is reflected basically in A Dance of the Forest, where Soyinka dramatized the dialectic of continuity. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. It dramatizes the dialectic of continuity and discontinuity within Yoruba cosmology. Now, I need to explain what I mean by continuity. What for me is continuity and what is discontinuity, so that we understand the context from which I'm presenting this paper. For me, continuity has to do with upholding of the traditions. When Soyinka is proposing, or when he presents a traditional order, or the social order, the Yoruba societies in which these places are placed, and talks about upholding that order. And then where there is the discontinuity is where there is an interplay of maybe some foreign ideology or some other things to break that particular continuity. The way you have been talking about Death and the King's Horseman. The continuity of memory in Dance and the Forest is symbolized through ritual, the summoning of ancestral spirits, and the involvement of forest deities like Aroni, who mediate between the living and the dead in accordance with Yoruba metaphysical traditions. That is continuity. These elements emphasize an enduring cosmological framework where the past, the present, and the future coalesce with cyclical time. However, Soyinka disrupts this continuity by rejecting the community's idealized version of its past. Instead of glorified ancestral figures, the villagers are confronted with morally compromised spirits who expose the community's complicity in historical violence and social decay. This rupture functions as a semiotic discontinuity, fracturing the illusion of noble heritage and challenging the audience to re-evaluate inherited myths. Moreover, Soyinka's dramaturgy intersects with global ideological frameworks, particularly post-colonial critique and existential thought. His skepticism towards nationalist romanticism parallels Edward Said's concern with the dangers of essentialist identity. So we see Demoke in Dance and the Forest. He's then we see Rola has self-awareness. This evokes existentialist emphasis on individual responsibility and societal disillusionment. This play is non-linear in terms of narrative. There's an allegorical layering, and then there's a symbolic density which reflects a hybrid aesthetic that draws from both indigenous ritual performance and global modernist theater traditions. We find that in the Dance of the Forest, the play itself becomes a liminal site where traditional African semiotics confront global ideologies, and where cultural regeneration is made possible, not through uncritical continuity, but through ethical rupture and creative reimagining. Then we have the strong breed. And the strong breed, I look at the strong breed under the theme continuity, discontinuity, and global resonances. In the strong breed, Soyinka reinterprets the Yoruba myth of Ogun and the ritual of scapegoat within the framework that bridges traditional African cosmology and Western essentialism. The thematic continuity lies in the symbolic function of Iman, the protagonist, who assumes the culturally rooted role of the carrier, a sacrificial figure who bears the sins of the community to cleanse and renew. Of expulsion practiced in many Yoruba communities. This is a key discontinuity by imbuing man with a deeply individual conscious moral consciousness. A man is made as an individual who has his own moral consciousness. This is a trait that is more aligned with Western humanist and existential traditions. Unlike the traditional scapegoat chosen by the community, man chooses his path willingly. He embodies the existential motive of self-sacrifice and personal agency in the face of absurdity and suffering. So we find that Yoruba myth here is layered with existential motives, reminiscent of Camus and Sartre. It signals a break from collective determinism towards personal responsibility. So I go on to look at the death and the king's horseman. And this is perhaps Soyinka's most direct exploration of the violent discontinuities introduced by colonialism into a coherent indigenous symbolic order. This play, as we all know, is grounded in Yoruba cosmological belief that upon the death of a king, the king's horseman must commit ritual suicide to accompany the king's spirit to the afterlife. And this ensures balance. This right. Okay, so the issue is that we are saying that in Soyinka's bringing together all this, we are looking at him bringing this discontinuity, but there's a third space in which we find that there is a merging of this. Soyinka gives us this balance. And for me, that is where we can understand, we can read him. He has taken myth, used it to say something that is appealing, not just to the indigenous societies, but giving it a global interpretation. Thank you very much for listening to me. So we go to the certain things. So we go to the fourth presentation. The fourth presentation is from Mbu Tenu Mbu on the void of post-independence and the interfaces of meaning in Wole Soyinka's The Interpreters and Chronicles. Mbu, is he here?
Not yet.
Not of the. Oh, okay, fine. So, okay. So we go to Loretta in Kiruka. She's going to talk on self-construct, survivor consciousness, and the society in Kongi's harvest. Your time starts now.
Okay, good morning. Am I audible enough?
Yeah.
Good morning.
Morning, Ma. Good morning, sirs. My name is Loretta Nkiruka Ike from the Federal University, Lafia, Nigeria. All right, I'll be presenting my own paper on self-construct, survivor consciousness, and the society in Kongi's harvest. Trying to see if I could, host disabled screen sharing. Okay, let me go ahead. All right, the contents of this paper is on the self-consciousness that is imperative for socio-cultural awakening to the solving and overcoming of challenging chaotic situations that actually constitute threats to individual and communal survival of cultural memories. It helps, this consciousness helps to drive individuals' resolve to questioning unpleasant life's problems and different existential crises, such as are reflected in Soyinka's works like The Kongi's Harvest. The Kongi's Harvest re-envisions and reconstructs the historical, socio-political, and cultural dynamics of self-construct crisis and survival consciousness conflicts in independent Nigeria. The conflicts in the play are reflected in the representations of exclusionary identities, such as of Kongi's emblematic self-constructs, as are deployed in his contentious resolve to remediate the culture and the tradition of his people in the attempt to refashion himself in the image of a social, religious, and political messiah of his people through a dictatorship. All we know about social conscious, the conscious reawakening is part of the experiences that individuals face, and these experiences of conflict in life, political crisis, cultural crisis, and if it could be man-made and that could be naturally made, it should not even be considered as unusual aberrations. The unusual aberrations, of course, they manifest in fear, in anxiety, in threats, in struggle, distress, anguish, disabilities of great magnitude as driving the individual's resolve to question how unpleasant life could be. And in this instance, they shape their personal experiences, enabling them to articulate a vital relationship to the entirety of all the conditions with which their life is connected to. This potential for the reawakening lies in the survival consciousness of man, and by definition, consciousness, both spontaneous and reflective, is the totality of human experience. Thus, this experience is imperative for a social reawakening for the self and for the others. It awakens an identity represented in its self-consciousness. It awakens the need to question certain standards that are not appealing in life, certain standards that actually goes against the harmonious existence in the family, in one's personal life, or in the community at large. It awakens a conditioned consciousness as a search ground for survival, for relevance, and significance in this complex socio-political and socio-cultural environments. In this paper, the characters that chart this survival consciousness in Kungi's Harvest are not far-fetched. We see Shegi, the ex-mistress to Kungi, whose father was beheaded at the point of having that ceremony, and she was, with the support of the other women clan, they actually put up a coup. We see the character of Daudu. Daudu is the nephew to Danlola, the traditional ruler, and Daudu is the leader of the farmers' cooperative. And we see Segilola, who mediates between the Aweris and the brutal carpenters brigade and takes instructions from Kogi. So in their relationship together, they actually have gotten the information that this particular harvest will make Danlola present the New Yam Festival, the New Yam, the item for the festival, to Kongi. In other words, to make Kongi assume the position of a Messiah. But this didn't go down well with Danlola. And so, what is the main point of this? There is a self-consciousness to actually resist such dehumanitarian situation. The way each character approaches their existential dilemma translates to the way they each understand themselves and the search for a meaning. The need then arises for some certain reasons not far-fetched from an attempt to understand the extent to which the individual lives in the individual lives in a constant consciousness of fear and apprehension, where there is this tension between history, that is the past, and the reality fuses, where the tension between the past and the present fuses. The objective of this paper is to discuss the reactionary self in quotes, in the play Kongi's Harvest, and further to this, the characters' portrayal of their heightened level of self-consciousness in the limited expectations of life and how they engage in a revolution fueled by the oppressed is actually the focus of this study. How significant is this paper? Every traumatic individual strives towards emancipation and survival, just as we see in the characters' experiences of the conflict, the counter-conflict, and the violence in the play. This paper is significant in adding to the academic knowledge as it critically engages the conflict of survival, developing from the consciousness of the dramatic characters in the play. And it is within this understanding of the constant conflict of self-constructs, it's within this understanding that they actually need that revolutionary action and they sought after it. The theoretical framework employed here is humanism and existentialism. Humanism is taken from the angle of individuals emphasizing their potential for the choices they make, the inherent drive that is linked towards this self-actualization, and their creativity in the survival end. Now, the theory of existentialism portrays freedom individuals' responsibility and their subjectivity in the face of life's chaos, trial, absurdities, and meaninglessness. So the importance is on the essence of their choices and their actions, just as they relate to the arguments of Sartre in his works, while emphasizing on the responsibilities of the being in itself. Being for itself, the being in itself, the unconscious actions that they don't have control over. Then the being for itself, the consciousness that you can take the necessary actions to actually survive amidst any chaos. And then the being for others, because in this, all right, in this cosmos, there is every tendency to relate to A and B and then the general community. And the findings and conclusion is such that the play employs in its powerful and rich literary elements and devices like symbolism, irony, and imagery. It employs it in interrogating tradition and culture, in reviving a future Nigerian political colony. It portrays the oppressive character of Kogi, the political leader who experiences a plotted coup and clampdown and condemnation, repressive and cruel rule. The harvest in this regard relates to the quest for a harvest of societal reformation, societal refurbishing for a true, exceptional, and responsive system of governance. The analysis of the play undoubtedly portrays the playwright as a self-conscious persona who reels out his consciousness in berating. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for the insights into Kongi's harvest. Let me use this opportunity to thank all the speakers for the papers that have been presented here. Toshin Adeshokan, Demola Adeshola, and Loretta and myself. I want to thank you for giving us something to feast on. So we come to the last part of these presentations where we are going to be taking questions, and this will be coordinated over there, I think, or is it from me? If I say a hand, an electronic hand, or it can be coordinated from there, either way. But if there are any questions to any of the speakers, we can take them. But let me, as a chairperson, start with my own questions so that the other ones can flow. And my question for each of the speakers, I have something I want to ask. To Toshin Adeshokan, I want to ask, what does the post-colonial stylistic study offer as fresh insights into the study of the plays that you have mentioned? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Did you get the question?
Yes.
Should I repeat it?
No, we got the question.
I'm asking for the... Okay, fine. That is the question to you. Then to okay, to Ademola Adeshala, I want to ask, I think there were two presenters to this paper.
Yes.
Well, yeah, so I'm asking the two presenters, but only one is listed here. Or there two, one I can see. Okay, Anola Jumoke, Akiode. I want to ask you, what makes Iyaloja a feminist? Because, you know, your title said one manner of feminists, and then you want to talk about her. And I wasn't, the issue is that I wasn't hearing too well as I should, but I kept hearing Iyaloja's name, and I kept hearing her about her antics and so on. So I believe that this portraiture, and if, actually the title says of Iyaloja in Soyinka's Death of the King's Husband, what makes Iyaloja a feminist? So I want an explanation of that, and then you will tell me the kind of feminism that she embodies, because that is the nucleus of that paper. Since I can't ask a question to myself, I'll leave that for you to ask me. Then I'll leave that for you to ask me that question. what questions you have. And then I'm coming to Loretta to find out from her. She's talked about self-construct survivor consciousness. Which of the characters in Kongi's Harvest embody this title? And what kind of analysis is used for this study? I would want to know that. So these are my own questions, and you can feel free to please go ahead and ask questions and also ask me questions. Thank you.
Chair, I also
Any
have
other questions we want to
I
ask?
have some questions and comments.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. My first intervention will be on the second paper, what manner of feminists. And of course, it's also in line with some of the issues you raised, that are we really situating Iyaloja within the historical presence of that book? Or we are trying to read our own meaning in Iyaloja? Okay. That's my question on that paper, so that we can situate Iyaloja within the historical presence of the play. And of course, what Soyinka himself did with Iyaloja, or what, because even in the play, Iyaloja also was one way legitimizing the fact that election has to die. Okay, so whatever she might have done against the lady or against feminism, she's also doing against the man or whatever. So within that cultural experience, who is Iyaloja and what does she represent? Okay. Yeah, Prof, I enjoy your paper very much. Some of the things I think there is that continuity should not be uncritical. Whenever we say continuity, especially of culture, it should not be uncritical. It has to be critical, and I think that is very important. Okay, but then don't you see that the action of Iman was actually culturally conditioned, even though he decided to, as you said, morally conscious about his action, but then was he not really conditioned to have seen himself as a carrier? Okay, so how do we really interrogate such cultural pretext that condition the way we think or the way we see ourselves, especially within such essential interrogation of moral consciousness? So that at what point is my moral consciousness also a product of the way I've been programmed or conditioned by certain cultures, things that are put analyzed? Then I'll come to the first paper. I actually also enjoyed that paper. But my own interrogation is about Baroka bringing in CD. Don't you think that it was just about how to actually lure her and then get her to agree with what he wanted ultimately? Okay, so is he really just a special linguistic depthness of Baroka or cultural depthness of Baroka? Is it just linguistic? Because at the end of the day, it's the cultural depthness that I think is also manifesting in whatever is the linguistic depthness. But then, can we just look at that and talk about it now? Then I don't know what you have done in the full paper, but I think at a point you were trying to define theory. I don't think you need to define theory in your paper. Just tell us that this is your theory and this is how you are using it or this is how you're applying it. Then I'll come to Loretta. Yes, just as Prof has said, you may need to tell us how you fully apply the theory to the analysis of the characters to bring out the issue of self-construct, self-consciousness within that society. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So, any other questions?
Right, I have 4 questions. So let's move on.
And what goes with the venue? So for the first speaker, you and you're just it was criminal science, the definition of contractability in line and the draw. But I think you there. Since it's easy to start with you. So looking at it's a personal view. One for me, I feel once you're looking at contractability, you should also look at the contrasts in terms of also the like the guy yesterday in Blackpool. Why don't you wanted to marry? Why did you refer to Shelley as average? If you bring out also, he didn't see it as someone like as that as equal, which is something that's like interest in cultural and Yoruba culture that when are the stronger words. But he also was not willing to pay the right price. Like a form of contract then was trying to I don't know he was trying to like, combine the two together, which is not so I don't know if you're
If I just sorry, and it's interesting you're raising that point because as you came out in that presentation, they call that their justification for calling CDA and like that. So legal question is from what has been established as scientific racism. It's not even looking at any Yoruba culture to say in our culture, women are so related to men. Import a scientific research and said anywhere or in whatever. They said they are studying women's brain and are saying it's smaller and therefore they are to be subordinated to men. He didn't use
my question is what's the scientific how to define scientific?
Well, we know, I mean, I don't think there's a question around what is scientific, but the point I'm raising is that we are saying Yoruba culture does not allow women to have a voice. I think maybe we should go back to locating when that stopped being a thing. Because we came out in this presentation that we know that men are in institutions. No, we have to account for the role of colonization. In that, that's why we always argue that women during colonization, in certain ways, within that can come something happen like this which so because the colonizer came with the framework that they are established, the women where they're coming from was somebody needed. So that was also what they introduced here. I mean, which is not to say that women were exactly at the same place where men were, but it was worsening in the advent. In that sense, women became doubly colored.
Okay, thank you for that. The second speaker.
Can I say something?
Okay, Prof.
Coming back to the point you have just made, I want to point out the fact that first of all, you need to define what you mean by feminism. Because when we understand what you're talking about feminism, then we can now begin to say.
I didn't answer my question. I just intervened in the question that was raised.
No, I know, but it's from what you said to her about women not being at the same level that I wanted to still bring that point in, because that question has come because we are yet to understand what your feminism. There are many feminisms. So once you locate us where feminism is, then we will be good. And then we can begin to look at ideology.
The second point I want to raise, it's not a question. I'm trying to support him anyway. Talk about go back to the question of what's feminism? What like in the book, you have to portray as a feminist. But you see as a feminist, and this can this is like this different literature and dramas. Looking at this fully accord movie, our Shola, what's it called? Presented as a feminist, but to some people, you see her as a feminist. So she was independent. She had autonomy, everything she wanted and everything. So I feel saying what how is the analogy feminist is just it depends on your own view, or your own personal understanding of what feminism is. That's what I'm about to say. So what exactly? That's the comment I was making.
Okay, can we do it this way? Excuse me, can we do it this way? Can we take this first set of questions, answer them, and then take another set of questions?
Yes,
I think that will be more orderly.
The questions that you related, so I think it's nice to take everything at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay, Prof, let us just take two people. Okay. My own question.
I can't see them.
I'll start with additional. And yes, I enjoyed your paper, but I think there was also some level of the conflicting issue that you raised. You spoke about Amush as a protecting tradition. The same Amush that was supposed to protect or protected one part of tradition actually conflicted with that part. Because it was the same person who went to go and stop the election from sacrifice. It was one way to. So please, I want to put that in context. Then he also said that he refused to die. The representation says not like he didn't want. I don't think that's correct. Yes, he tied the wife. He wanted to enjoy before going to meet success. But he didn't refuse to die. He actually planned to die. So the second presenters, the question I asked is subjective.
That's subjective. It was not like it was respond.
That's my view. You need to situate. Yeah, to me, she's a feminist. But what type of feminist is she? Is she an African woman? Is she a same-sex feminist? Is she a liberal feminist? Maybe by the time you answer that question, then we can now situate her. Because you must also consider, just like he said, what could she have done differently, considering the environment and the time that she was in. To me, I think she was just a protector of tradition, whether it falls on the side of the man or on the side of the man. That's my own perspective. Those are the two questions I have.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I think we should answer the first questions and then we can take another round of questions. Honestly, I think so. This will be more orderly.
Okay,
You will still get to speak, but can we take the answers to the first questions? Let us have the first paper respond to these issues that have been raised, and then the second paper, and then myself, and then Loretta. Can we have the first speaker respond?
Yeah, I'm talking already. I'll be answering your question. Your question, what does the post-colonial system overspread to these people? The issue was that time was not enough to go deeper into what are brought up. The focus of post-colonial theory is to re-examine the aftermath of colonialism. Because there have been a lot of work on this, so much interpretations, but the issue is that our objective are these analyses that we make around. The focus of that is to have an objective interpretation of the work. If all of us gather, you are going to have different perspectives about a particular character. But what analysis try to figure out is how to arrive at a symbolical point of angle using the linguistic choices that are in the text. If, for example, I started asking questions from which is not supposed to be the actual thing, and I was able to cite instances of interrogative synthesis present there. That confirms my position that the order of arrangement has been changed between Musa and the other issues that are there. So the issue of post-colonial studies analysis, so make it an objective study, not about guessing. Other studies will guess, will not even try to make it scientific. So studies is scientific in nature because it has method, patterns, and visible objectives that is aiming to reach. If another studies analysis try to attend this work too, we'll be looking at almost the same interpretation because we are using the same linguistic choices or experiments. That's what I can say, just making it objective.
Let me, Chair, with your permission, because I had exactly that question, and yeah, thank you for your response. But I still think the question is the constituent of your time is what is the definition of what is post-colonial stylistic. Yeah. That's if you go that phrase alone, yeah, is the thing. You know, because again, we just want to understand that. But the second point I want to make is when we give tasks for authors, let's be mindful. No author has ever come out to say, with post-colonial, this is the work of critics. Yes. You know, who are particularly.
Okay, on title
Is what is post-colonial studies?
How is it different from either colonial stylists or Western stylists or
I think the problem is arising from the angle of interpreting the title. What title simply means is using stylistic methods to reach those clinical space in a post-colonialist manner, using stylistic method and approach to interpret.
So, what I mean, to me, I'm a post-colonial scholar. What I have had thus far is a statistic analysis. I am looking for the constituent of the post-colonial. Yeah, because what you have just done is the summary of some occurrences. What is the post-colonial element in that? So this is where I am missing the point. I think that's I presume that's your process is coming. It's just that combination, post-colonial studies. The truth of the matter, this is important of the day, and there's no problem with that. It's just on the time what are you speaking to?
And I think I'll need you to explain it from my angle.
no, but I think what you can do is actually to go and look for such post-colonial departures from whatever may be Western and then identify them. Okay. And then yeah.
So those are side of when we can have
The second question that you asked, you were asking if the conversion between CD and Baroka is really about advertising the African identity to Western ideas. You were suggesting that it's not part of another point of view of gloriously into its place. We might want to be looking at that, but according to my perspective and what led to that discussion actually is the issue of Baroka constantly standing in the way of Black whenever you project modernity to the world. So prior to that, CD comes in contact with foreign machine Barokas understand she's inquiring about it. And Baroka, being someone that has been always against Western idea, Western policy, tries to justify its position that for sustainability.
I think the point has actually been made. So let's move on because we don't have much time and we still have questions. I think the point has been made. So can we have the second paper? Can we have comments?
I'll just say a little bit. I will allow my colleagues to also voice any insights. Thank you for those questions. Basically, the questions you have raised speak to the fact that we're dealing with a complex character who cannot be understood entirely using one less understanding. We're not trying to link, we're not trying to link the play from its historical context in this sense. I mean, any reading of the play, any analysis of the play must, of course, recognize its social, cultural context. And then you can depart thereafter. And that's what we're doing. Keep in mind that the term feminism itself, as we have rightly articulated, has different strands and different connotations. What we are looking at is the notion of feminism from the point of view of Adichie's sector, which should all be feminists. I believe that a feminist, regardless of their gender, is someone who recognizes that something wrong is happening, particularly to me in resistance, and they make that correct. In other words, a feminist is somebody who recognizes that for the wellness of society, when something is wrong, you have to intervene and you have to call it out. In other words, you have to have a voice, you have to have a space to be able to perform that intervention. If you keep that in mind, then we examine that in mind, because part of what we have seen in our examination, the ways in which this text has been read, is that there are certain positions that have been made, and when you're thinking about this thing, you have to read it in that light. No. The point here is we find the character of this text, we are not that. Somebody who has a voice, somebody who understands that if what elections should do does not happen, it has implications not just for women, but for men as well. And hence, she insists that this has to take place. She does not operate in a domestic space. She operates in the public. And that's very crucial for somebody, who would play that significant role. So, don't be so for us, we see some manifestations of what Adichie is arguing with respect to feminism, in this character. Just as we see that there are senses in which she perpetuates the patriarchal order, as well. And in that sense, this is the good thing about character, the ability, and rather the brilliance of Soyinka in creating this character, this order in how they define a single explanation for who they are.
Sorry, let me before you come in, let me say that your answer has opened up so many issues that I don't think we can contain them within the space of what we're saying here. Your definition of feminism, okay, maybe you will shape it, because that definition of feminism is not right. Yes. Go on.
Okay, so let me just add, because the joint work. So from the questions that have been asked, I can say that if the title says what manner of feminists from Soyinka's portrayal, right, of the other industry. So I'm looking at that text, and I'm seeing, because I went into showing that background, we didn't have the time to follow the cultural perspective. Soyinka thinks that in this paper, he has catered to what we call gender representation. So we have the men, we have the women, and the female is so powerful that she speaks for the elders. So that alone solves hope. In this play, women are active, men are active. So if that is his agenda, then he hasn't situated the elder very, very well. And it's from that angle we're saying, if you are going to say, if you're talking about gender representation, it is not enough for the women to be there as a symbol. For to fit in. I don't want to cast her in the role of the feminist. Then she's lacking so, and so, and so.
But at this point you have made is very important from the angle of representation.
Exactly.
That okay, it's not just about having women in a that makes that
She has a voice.
Okay.
Feminists have she has a voice.
For me, I think she just said like, okay,
See, they're patriarchal.
exactly.
And listening to the gender hegemony,
Yes.
and doing everything that the society wants. So if Soyinka was looking for, okay, in this paper, I have gender representation, and Yanoja, she's representing the women folk, she's speaking, she has a voice, she's commanding things, she's protecting the custom and the physical order.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
They are satisfied for a definition of feminism. But basically, feminism and feminism, it's about looking at what is wrong with gender roles, gender expectations, gender interpretation and perception, and saying that here there is a problem. And like Aditi told us, that look out for those injustices that have with gender. For the ways women are treated differently from men, the way they are raised differently from men, call this out. Dream about a society that is better than what we have today, and work towards it. And so Yanoja, from the profession of Soyinka, has not met those standards. That's what we find.
I think the issue around the
Sorry, excuse me. Excuse me.
Yanoja,
Yanoja, like the other person who is there said, is speaking for the tradition. He's not speaking for the women.
no, that's
He's
what I just said.
speaking for the tradition.
And for ourselves.
So she's standing for the tradition. You say women have a voice. The voice, what are they speaking? It's not just women having a voice. That is feminism.
Okay.
That's okay.
Can we have it?
Discussion will continue.
Chair, we have 9 minutes left.
This discussion will continue. Let's go to the next, which is you asked about the conditioning, whether a man was not conditioned. And I would say, of course, he was. Because remember that he's running from a tradition. A man himself is a carrier. In the place where he's coming from, he's supposed to be a carrier. Escapes there to become a carrier in a place where, in his own place, the carriers are respected. They are given on. But in this place where he has run to, is a place where the carriers are like the worst dregs of the society. So we see Soyinka presenting two societies. The truth of the matter is that a man was born as a carrier. But when he does carrier in his own place or go somewhere else, he still, that's what he was born to be goes with him. And that is the reason why, even in this place, he ends up the car. He wasn't the original, he was not the original target. But because he was born and he understands that tradition, he willingly steps into it. But you see, that's why we talk about the issue of continuity and discontinuity. The fact that a man becomes like the Christ-like figure, where he's giving himself. Remember that he's not the first, nobody was looking at him, but he now offers himself to become that because he understands that tradition. But in this place, unfortunately, where he's offering himself, that respect, that prestige, that honor is not part of it. So in terms of conditioning, yes, he's been conditioned to be that. Thank you. Loretta?
One more question here.
Let's take Loretta's question.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, the question, which of the characters embodies this title? Okay, let me start from the main character, Kogi, self-constructing himself as the Messiah of the people, the savior of Isma, the image of a dictator, and the malevolent figure that's so full of ill will. Now, on his part, his own self-construct is the fact that others are not benefiting from this self-construct. And that's the essence of bringing out the other character's self-construct to actually repress and pull down his attitude. And this is from the angle where I'm looking at the character and this it's
Or this yellow that character. But first of all, I'm going to ask for all the letters that but I think you were very specific with your own version of what you're because then I give your one has different adaptation. And nobody actually mentioned which one of the tests that they use. When you mentioned everybody should have that was everything. Everyone student said, for me that we mentioned which one are you using, which showing that for every someone's adaptation of the different or those questions. So you need to say, so I think
You are working
speaking
with
to
the
that
kind
aspect
of analysis that you were doing that brings all this together. But maybe I wasn't hearing you very well, so it's
Yeah,
good.
there was a bit of glitch. We were cut off from your discussion, bro, but now we are back. Yeah,
So that's my comment on the second person. Then for the first presenter,
Prof, are you here with us?
I think not everybody has been.
from
I feel everybody has. You need to
We are good. So let's set question.
Take back. So what is it that is different? What makes your work different from our linguistic arrangement? And then what benefits are you adding to knowledge collection? Apart from just talking Chinese. If I was not to go out there and say, please I need some Polish and you ask me, what with that? What with that?
So the point would be to come and be of teaching the
We can only give him ideas, but just what's the benefit of that?
So because you know they were raising the question of what is post-colonial institution. Can I probably understand?
Yes, your question is about.
My name is Friedrich. Jack, can you hear us now? Yes, last week.
Yeah, I can hear you now, but I wasn't hearing some minutes ago.
Yeah, we lost
But I'm good now.
So when
Yeah, I can hear you
now.
So somebody is asking a question now. I think we have less than 2 minutes now.
Do we have other questions? Can we take more questions? We have about 7 minutes.
Yes, 7 minutes.
That's from the second session.
Yeah.
Can I? Okay, my name is Dr. Musaule from International. Well, I think the problem with the first paper is from tech, largely, because the interview said for example, you see the post-colonial statistic examination or training class place. All right. You have the sense of what you see then if you say examining cultural diversity, so if you say cultural diversity already, we know the span of post-colonial study industrial variant of so it is there are two things there. Diversity ignorance span, very strong on this. So we are seeing those hybridity and hybridity. We were talking about articulation or being a tenant. All right. So just the title, just really get a picture of what to say. The second paper, I asked the question when very beautiful presentation. Then I asked, how is it yellow gas sport here? That's what I was asking myself. Yellow gas sport. If you are looking at her from the perspective of Adechi's
we must call it.
No, I think they have solved that problem by saying that it's a question of he's showing not really thinking that he has represented.
Can I learn? Because if you listen to them very well, and I think the first author and the second author seem to be seeing independence.
Don't forget that they said they are testing the report. Absolutely. So now they are testing
the last speaker, I think she took her time to read through the paper, so we have an idea of what she should say. But she had told the analysis before I had the view. All right. So I like the theory that grows the paper. So is it okay?
We have 2 minutes and one. We have 2 minutes left. 2 minutes.
And then she just brought a view. So if you know your paper, we should know your theory, and then we should see it.
Result of the presentation, but the paper is structured. I've seen the paper. I've seen the paper. The paper is well.
Can we try to round up? Can we try to round up? We have just a minute left. I don't know where the Center for Wole Soyinka Studies, the University of Abuja, has anything to say.
Yeah,
Do you have anything you want to say?
Yeah, what I want to say first is actually to appreciate you, Prof, for accepting to take these tasks up. We are so grateful on behalf of my Vice Chancellor and the Center. We are so grateful for your accepting this. And of course, we are also thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank all the speakers and everyone who has attended.
The papers that we harvest from here, we will put in Soyinka's journal. So please read us to your paper so that we will publish it.
Okay, I think you will give us information as to where to send the publication.
Thank you very much, Prof.
So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Loretta.